We all have these different extreme roles, and we must be loving, caring, kind, and forgiving of one another, no matter what our behaviors are. But we also have to have a baseline of where we will say, this is my tolerance level. So there has to be a level of, I can stick around for this or I can't. Big show today, guys.
Happy to be with you.
Gabrielle Bernstein, a role model for a new generation of spiritual seekers.
Welcome back to Dear Gabby. Today, I have a great feeling about this show. I don't know what it is, but something in me is saying it's going to be a good one. I have everybody in the waiting room coming in to be Dear Gabby, and I feel some kind of vibration coming through today, and I'm really excited about it. I'm going to just jump into this now. I'm going to begin this show today with a reading from the Universe Has Your Back deck. Do you hear me shuffling? Shuffle, shuffle. Let's go. Thank you, Universe. My hand is on top of the card. Thank you, Universe, for revealing to us what we need to know today. I'm going to pick the top card. Here we go. When I cultivate a spiritual connection, I can trust the universe no matter what. When I cultivate a spiritual connection, I can trust the universe no matter what. Boom. I can trust the universe. I have a lot to say about this card. When I cultivate a spiritual connection, a foundational connection to spirituality, to a faith of my own understanding, we really begin to settle into a new level of faith, a new level of trust, a new level of certainty. When we walk around and live life without any kind of spiritual connection or faith or even a personal growth practice that helps us connect to our inner wisdom and our intuition, what ultimately happens is we can kind of feel like a fish out of water, like we're flailing around. We feel like we need to control our circumstances to make things happen. We feel like we have to project fear onto the future because we don't want to recreate the past. We feel a sense of uncertainty at all times, and we don't have any kind of way of self-soothing or settling ourselves into a surrendered, faithful state. But when we cultivate a spiritual connection, a spiritual foundation, when we get roots into the ground, feel grounded and rooted with our own faith of our own understanding, that's when we can really live with a level of certainty that we've otherwise never would have had. For me, I've had a devotional spiritual practice for 16 years. I've been on a spiritual path much longer, but I've had a devotional practice for 16 years. I've meditated every single day for that time. As I continued to establish that meditation practice, the more I know I can rely on it, the more I can turn to it when I am out of alignment, the more I can turn to it when I'm stuck in fear and needing to activate that voice of inspiration, the more I can turn to it when I feel disconnected. And this meditation practice is something that I rely on wholeheartedly as a really foundational part of my spiritual connection. So committing to that spiritual connection will give us a new level of certainty and faith. I can't thank that card enough for just reiterating what I felt was going to come through today. It's so good. And if you are new to your meditation practice, I have such a great resource for you. I just announced the launch of my meditation challenge. It's a 21-day meditation challenge, and you can sign up at deargabby.com/meditation challenge or get the link in the show notes. I will share more about that so you can really, really get grounded in your own practice. And what happens at the end of 21 days of sitting in meditation is that you do experience a new level of certainty and a new level of faith. And the more you develop it, the more you can rely on that faith and certainty. It's a muscle that has to be exercised in order for us to really develop the resilience that we need to move through difficult times and good times with grace ease, and faith. Wow, I like our topic for today. Cultivating our spiritual connection. Here we go, my friends. All right, team, let's bring in the first guest on Dear Gabby today. Who do we have? Who's coming through? Who's coming through? Hey!
Gabby, my name is Allison. I can't believe I'm speaking to you.
Welcome to the show, Allison. You're so cute.
Gabby, I love you so much. I'm working. I have my work from home classes on. I put it on every Wednesday while I'm working. I listen to you and I've never missed a single one. So thank you so much for making my Wednesday for like a year.
I like when my Dear Gabby regulars make it onto the show. Very exciting for me.
I'm so excited. I love you so much. Oh my gosh, my heart's beating so fast because I'm so excited to talk to you. My question is about your choose again method, about the second step. I'm wondering I'm a student of IFS therapy, thanks to you. So thank you for telling me about that. And it's totally changed my mental health journey.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. So my question is, choose again method, the second step, forgive the thought. Can you talk about that in relation to an IFS process? You know what I mean? In terms of forgiving the thought and hearing it and kind of giving some insight into that.
Yeah, definitely. So let me unpack this for the new listener who, unlike you, Allison, has been diving so deep, but someone who's new to these practices. So my choose again method is about reconditioning our thoughts. And it is almost like a living meditation, because it's consciously choosing to lean into higher vibrational thoughts through the practice of noticing, forgiveness, and proactively choosing again. So the first step is to notice the negative thoughts that you have on repeat, those inner critics, those fear-based thoughts. In IFS therapy, we might call those protectors or managers, the inner critic that's saying, you're not good enough, how could you do this? All of those fear-based belief systems that we've built up and protected for many years. And the second step is to forgive the thought. So what I mean by forgive the thought is we have these thoughts that we keep thinking. And as Abraham Hicks says, a belief is just a thought that you keep thinking. So the moment that you forgive yourself for having that thought, it no longer has a hold on you as a belief. You can simply say, oh my God, there's that thought again. That's not the truth of who I am. There's that thought again. I forgive myself for falling back into that thought, but it's not who I am. And that helps us disconnect from the belief that we are that thought. And I'll come back to what that relates to IFS in a second. Then the third step in the choose again method is to reach for the next best feeling thought. So in an instance like this, you would reach for a thought that feels better. It doesn't have to be like I'm broke and now I'm a millionaire. It could be I'm broke, but I have resources and I can actually pay my bills at the moment. But I have a friend that has a lead that I'm going to get to for that new job, and I can get on LinkedIn, and I have all these great resources to find new employment. And so reaching and reaching and reaching for the next best feeling thought. That's the choose again method. Now, IFS therapy is internal family systems, which is based on the belief system that we have multiple parts of who we are. And the fear-based thoughts that I referenced in the choose again method are often in IFS referred to as inner critics, but in IFS, we would call them protector parts. So the parts of us that say you're not good enough to do that, or the parts of us that are fighting and rageful, or the parts of us that are always feeling like the victim. And the protectors are protecting us from feeling deeper inner child wounded parts. So we've got these inner critics that are always on high alert so that we don't have to feel the more wounded child parts. This is really taking a humongous body of work by Dick Schwartz and simplifying it as much as I can. So Allison is asking how that second step of forgiving yourself for having the negative thought relates to internal family systems, IFS therapy. And here we go. Hopefully Dick will listen to this and say, good job, Gabby. I think we're going to get there. So we've got this fear-based thought, the inner critic that's always showing up. But according to IFS, we also have self. And self is the spiritual connection within us. Self is the resourced part of who we are. Self is the person that shows up when we are feeling confident and strong. And self is our truth. So the moment that we forgive the part of us that wants to lean into the inner critic and we lean into that voice of forgiveness, we're connecting to self. We're letting self lead. We're letting self talk back to the inner critic. You are not who I am. You're just a thought that I keep thinking. Thank you for being a part of me, but I'm not going to say that this is exactly my reality. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to let you relax now. You don't have to be so extreme. You've done your part. I forgive you. Let's take a breath. So it's really self speaking back to the inner critic. Now, does that make sense to you, Allison?
Yes, that makes perfect sense. So it's like acknowledging that that part has been working really hard and telling it that it doesn't need to work so hard, and forgiving it for maybe protecting from some things that you might need to feel still.
Correct. And let even forgetting the fact that it's been protecting other parts. Let's just say thank you for doing the job that you've been doing. You've been a little bit extreme, and I forgive you for that. And I'm going to let myself, my higher self, lead now, and I'm going to choose again. I'm going to choose a self-led thought. I'm going to choose a loving thought. And it's the thing about working with IFS is that we don't want to shame our parts. We all have different parts of ourselves. We act out in different ways. We become addicted. We have fear-based belief systems. We have overactive belief systems, rageful ways that we show up. And these different parts of us have had a role, and some of them have been very extreme. And the goal isn't to shame the parts. The goal is to forgive them and help them become less extreme. Allison coming in hot with a real big question here to start us off today on Dear Gabby. But I hope that I'm doing a good job of really demystifying these principles. It could sound like a lot, but I do promise to continue to unpack this. I'm actually taking the level 1 IFS training this fall, and will continue to do all the levels that I can get to, because it's something that's very, very valuable to me personally. And I know it's going to be extremely important for me to do my part to demystify the principles for a more broader audience beyond just what happens in the therapy settings, because it's transformational work. Okay, let's bring in the next guest. Who is next? Hi.
Hi. Oh my gosh. My heart's racing.
What's going on, lady love? How you doing?
I'm good. I guess my question is just relationship oriented. I'm wondering, I'm a single mom of teenagers, and I'm in a relationship, but my children really don't like him, and neither does my family. And it's kind of feels like a no-win situation. And, I'm trying to trust in the universe and just kind of go with it each day, and just see if something changes. And I'm really not changing anything in the process, but I'm just curious if you have any advice on that.
Do you like him?
Yeah, I do.
I hope you're enjoying this show. And if you want to get more Gabby, you can click the link below, subscribe to my Dear Gabby podcast on Apple, be the first to know when the episodes drop, because they come out 1 week before the video. And you can download it to your phone, listen to it while you're driving, while you're cooking, while you're working out. You can just get more Gabby wherever you are. And if you feel called, leave a review. I'd love to hear from you. Now let's get back to this episode.
We were in a relationship right after my divorce. And it was very, very, very high and low kind of thing. We were both going through divorce together, and I think we really helped each other. And then things just kind of spun out of control, and we ended it, and then ended up reconnecting during the pandemic. And now I guess like my family just kind of sees it as like they remember the turmoil at the end. But I don't really
Okay, so they
see
haven't
that.
forgiven, they haven't forgiven him.
Right.
Have you forgiven him?
I have, for sure.
Okay. Has he changed?
I think so, in some ways. I still see things. His emotions are very erratic. Not like in a violent way, just very can kind of fall into depression a bit. And and I kind of feel myself falling there with him because I have so much empathy for him. But I know I've changed a lot. Like I feel stronger than our past relationship.
All right. So here's the deal. Here's the deal, Brooke. We're all wounded people. Everybody suffers. We all have really difficult parts of ourselves that are challenging to show up for at times. In some cases, it's mental illness. Some cases, it's depression. In your case, you said you have so much empathy, so you are likely maybe over empathizing at times, taking on the wounds of others to try to save them, or just it's in your nature, which is a beautiful quality, but it can be extreme. And we all have these different extreme roles, and we must be loving, caring, kind, and forgiving of one another, no matter what our behaviors are. But we also have to have a baseline of where we will say, this is my tolerance level. So there has to be a level of, I can stick around for this or I can't. But it doesn't mean that we have to stop loving someone. So what I'm hearing from you is there's love, there's connection, there's probably some sense of safety having a partner, even especially during COVID, which I want to really acknowledge and respect. But there's also wounds, and there's also hurt, and there's also unhealthy empath nature, and there's also falling into depression with someone, and there's some stuff that's up. And then there's the family that's not really down with this because it's caused you harm in the past and might continue to be causing you harm. So I think that you are aware of the problems, but while still simultaneously hoping for it to work out. The answer truly is, when it comes to relationships, if both partners are growing, then there's some hope. There's possibility. There's an opportunity to say, hey, family members, give me a chance. We're both in this growth moment together. We're working, we're growing. If one partner is growing and the other partner is staying stagnant, that's usually a sign that it's not moving in the same direction and that there may be a line to be drawn. Temporarily, permanently, who knows? But I just want to encourage you to focus on that. Are you growing together or is it off balance? Because that misalignment is likely what you're referencing when you kind of come up with like, well, but this, but that, I'm going into the darkness with him. And it's likely what your parents and your children are picking up on. So I'm not saying that he's not a wonderful human. Everyone is a wonderful human. Every human is a wonderful human. We all are based in a core truth, which is love. We just become separated from that love because of many different circumstances. And the further that separation, the further the traumatization, the more blown out these extreme parts of us become, the harder it is to show up at our highest and best self. So for you, Brooke, you have to keep your side of the street clean and recognize, if I'm moving and I'm growing and he's not growing with me, I might have to reassess this. Does that resonate with you, Brooke?
Yeah, big time. I I got sober right at the end of our relationship. And that's when I definitely created a lot of boundaries that I hadn't in the years before that. And so, I think that's at that time, I definitely recognized, oh my gosh, I'm really growing and he's the same. And that might still be the case.
Yeah, I think it is. I honestly think it is. And I don't have any, I don't waste any time here. So I think that my homework for you is to take this in, sit with it, really continue to come back to, is he growing with me or is he not? Because it's totally fine for relationships to be suffering as long as both partners are in the growth together. But when one person's growing and the other one's not, it can be challenging. So it's something for you to take seriously. Okay, love? But remember our card, right? My spiritual faith, my spiritual connection offers me that certainty and that faith. And so you can keep deepening your spiritual connection, meditating more, connecting more through prayer, turning it over, staying clean and sober, all of the things that you did when you got sober to stay sober. Use those tools, because the more you stay grounded there, the more you can trust in the unfolding. You're so welcome. Thank you, Brooke. Thank you, sweetheart. If you like this video and you want to get more Gabby, check out the next one right over here.